Hi, welcome to STEAM Mindset, teaching the next generation to problem solve with me, Dr. Diana. Thanks for joining me today. I'm so honored to announce that 3 of my books have gone to #1 on Amazon's hot new seller list in both science and STEM education. Wow, still can't believe it. So with STEAM Mindset, the mission here really is to develop curiosity-based STEAM communities through training and empowerment frameworks. How can we create communities that support curiosity, questioning, experimenting, and feeling forward? Take a moment and think about it. How do you define STEM or STEAM? And then what are some challenges you face? And lastly, what does STEAM or STEM look like at your school or in your district? If we were together, I would ask you to think, pair, share. This is a thinking routine that comes from Harvard's Project Zero. They have numerous hundreds of these thinking routines for free, and this presentation is hyperlinked so you can have them at the end. So some of the challenges that I often hear from teachers and administrators is that people don't know where to begin or how to start. It's kind of overwhelming. Should they call it a STEM program, a STEAM program? Should they design a makerspace? Should there be mini makerspaces in classrooms? Should it be a design lab, innovation center? And then there's that systemic issue, right? How can we encourage the girls, the boys, kids of color, neurodiversity? We want everybody to participate. How do we do that? And lastly, time. We never have enough time. Things are always being added to our plates as teachers, and nothing is getting taken off. So one framework is called challenge-based learning, and this comes from Susan Drake. And it explains that when we apply it to STEM or STEAM, we're phrasing our learning as a question, and we're asking the kids to solve a problem or giving them a challenge. It's open-ended, so there's more than one right answer, which leads to collaborating, creativity, and sharing of ideas. How this varies from project-based learning, and sometimes challenge-based learning can be called problem-based learning, but 2 PBLs is confusing, so we lean towards challenge-based learning. And it's short. They're 45-minute lessons. They can be done once a week as a Friday activity or something fun. They're good for substitutes, right? And they're great to get done quickly. So the emphasis really here is on the process and not the final product. So imagine a challenge where you ask your students to work together in small groups, building a tower taller than a chair using only index cards and cups, right? This is a low budget activity. Most of us would have these supplies lying around the school. So after the kids are done building, I would ask them to do a chalk talk where they share ideas and connections and questions that came up throughout the activity. So really our debrief or our synthesizing of the lesson happens at the end when we're doing a CBL unit. And then let's apply it to the cycle of problem solving, right? This is the 3 Ds, where kids are asked to define. So they say, well, what is the problem? And then they design their solutions and experiment. And it's iterative. So it goes around and around, and they work again and again and again, usually till time runs out. So we're looking at failure as something that's bad and having that mindset shift where it becomes something that's good. So failing is just part of the process when you're in a STEM workforce or if you're in a STEAM education program, right? This is all what we're doing. So iterations or trying again becomes just the norm. So as a STEAM mindset, we foster communities that are building on that curiosity, right? Where students, we want them to ask questions. We want them to experiment and tinker and have their hands on an activity. So failing is, again, not something bad, but something good. So we call it fail forward. And then the maker empowerment diagram next to it comes from Agency by Design, which is one of the projects at Harvard's Project Zero. And they say, look closely, explore complexity, and find opportunities for those maker experiments. So with the mindset, really what we're doing is teaching kids that they're in charge of their own learning. They can define what they're going to accomplish in the future. And they're in charge of asking questions, making mistakes boldly, laughing through hard things. And it's okay if you're upset and frustrated with this process. It's not easy. Here are 2 templates to reverse engineer a lesson plan to really tackle it and design it as a question or a challenge or a problem. One has a little bit more detail, including the next generation science standards and options for assessment. How can we assess students, right? So many of our programs are data driven to keep getting those grants. So these are just a few samples of ideas, and they're included in that framework of how to structure our lesson plans. So the Department of Education designed a report that said these 6 things should be included to make a great integration for STEM or STEAM in your school. So we want to develop a community of practice, have intentional risk and play, promote diversity, design flexible spaces, give our kids these challenges to solve, and work with networks of communities. So think back to the beginning of the presentation, those 3 questions, and reflect. I used to think, but now I think. Hopefully your mindset has changed. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, feel free to scan the QR code, and let's keep in touch. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully I'll see you in Chicago.